Welcome back to Becoming a Published Author is Fun. And if you want to know why it is fun, then I invite you to go back and check out episode 8. But today we are in episode 19. It's amazing that we're this far this fast, but we're into character building, which we're looking at the viewpoint portion of it. It's going to take 2 to 3 videos just for this. So I want to get into this. Well, if we can move on, we will, but we're going to focus on first person right now. So the way to think of first person is me, I, my. You might, in some cases, if it's more than one person, say our. It's all personal. And basically, it's the author being the primary character. So we're going to take some looks here at the advantages and disadvantages. So here's the advantage. Reader sees all that the character sees. Now that's a very important thing to understand. I'm the character of the book I'm writing. That's first person. So I'm seeing something. I'm looking out my window. And you are seeing what I see. I'm not telling you about it. You're actually seeing through my eyes what I am seeing. You are hearing what I hear. You're smelling what I smell. And if I'm thinking at all, you may very well be seeing my thoughts. We'll get into that one a little bit further. But that is what the reader sees. That's an advantage. Now the disadvantage of that is the I part. Why is it disadvantage? Because you're the character and you're the author. And you've got to keep these two divided, separated. And it's kind of hard to separate yourself from yourself. So this is you and this is you. And so you want to be able to, as far as the story is concerned, you want to be able to keep the two apart. There are portions of the book where you, the author, are talking. Maybe you're describing an event. Maybe you're giving some kind of event that is not seen or felt by the character. You're also the author who's talking about these developing other characters in the book that this character may or may not know yet. So you have to be able to keep those two parts of you separate. At the same time, knowing that this one is you in that book, and the reader sees, hears, smells everything that you hear, sees, hears, and smells. So that is something that is a very powerful tool. You have to work with it. It's not my favorite tool. Our viewpoint, because I don't personally not comfortable writing that way, that style, and that's probably my primary reason. I have read now. Sometimes I don't like other people's books who are in first person. If I get a choice, I usually go with third person when I buy a book. But I have read, and I think I've even bought books that were first person, and I've enjoyed them. The question is a personal thing with me that I myself don't write first person, but I know how first person works, and I can teach that, and that is what I am doing right now, teaching you some things about first person. If that is your choice to go that way, just know there is this difficulty. It's a major difficulty that you're going to have to watch, and you're going to have to, when editing, you got to make sure that this guy over here, which is you, doesn't get over here in this guy, which is also you. And so you got to be very careful with that. But then we get to a second advantage, and that is called immediacy. I'm going to underline that. That's using your senses. I've already mentioned my senses. Eyes, nose, ears rather. Those are your senses. Touch, that's a sense. And so in the advantage area, that is an advantage. And really, to be honest with you, I can't think of a disadvantage with that. That is a very strong, potent advantage, because the character, let's just say that your character, that's you, puts his hand on a very hot burner, and you go, ouch! If you're in writing that, you want to convey it, so you may actually add some descriptions in there that maybe your hand comes up and it's sizzling, or maybe your hand and it's already developing into welts and other things as a result of that, and you bring that all out, and so it can be a very potent factor, and you want to be able to convey all that to your reader so they actually, in a sense, they feel it as well. So that is a very powerful, and in fact, it's a reason for going first person. It's immediacy. Something happens, you, the reader, feel it, you sense it right away. I've already mentioned this last one. Reader sees thoughts. Now we're talking about your thoughts as the main character. Now, in this kind of a story, when it's first person, you never ever see the thoughts of another character. Why? Because you're writing in first person. And unless you're a mind reader, you don't know what the thoughts are. You might think you know, but you don't really know what the thoughts are. Now, that's you can deal with that. For instance, another character is thinking something. You can see it on their face, or actually thinking about what you just said or did or whatever. And so in your thoughts, you might be making a judgment. You go, oh, they're thinking this, or they're thinking that, or he thinks I'm lying, something like that. So your thoughts about what his thoughts, that's something you can include. You just can't include his thoughts because you can't read his mind. As in a third person, which we'll cover probably in the next video, the third person, the author can let the reader in to that extra supporting cast character. So these are the three advantages. This is the one primary reason why I find it difficult. There is an issue of pride. You have to, when writing first person, and this is what one of, is it, you're bragging about yourself in some ways. And it's always been difficult for me to brag about myself. I'm learning to. But it doesn't come naturally to me. And as a Christian, we're not supposed to have pride. But in your story, you want them to tell about what's going on. Especially in first person, you have to tell what you're doing. And so you have to literally brag about yourself. Well, I'm this super intelligent guy. Well, you might not want to say it that way, but you might want to say, well, I have a master's degree in such and such. I can figure out math problems without even using a calculator. I can do this or I can do that. We would call that bragging. Well, in first person, you need to do a little bit of bragging, because that's how your reader is going to see you. And he won't necessarily think of it as bragging. Now, I'm more sensitive to that, and so I pick up on that. But I have read some excellent books which are first person, in which it didn't come across that way at all to me. And so I never had to worry about it. I got into the story, I enjoyed the story, enjoyed the conclusion, the whole thing. And I just admire a person who can do that. I've never really, to be honest with you, I've never even attempted to be a first-person writer. It's just foreign to my way of thinking. But that doesn't mean it has to be foreign to your way of thinking. You need to be able to be free to express your characters the way you want to do it. And if the first person is the way you want to do it, then so be it. That's the great thing about basic author's training. In there, one of the things I try to do is find out as much about my student, which would be you, as I can, so that when they are writing in first person, I will know, well, that's what they want to do, and I'll be able to focus and bring out the things I already know about you and say, okay, why don't you include this in here? This is part of you and it actually fits the story. Or I might say, you know what? That part there almost sounds too much brag and not enough relation. It has to have some part in the story, be a part of the story. It may not be a critical part, but it should fit into the reader's overall view of you, the character. And so that's a line you have to follow. And so you got to be careful about pride. It's all right that you have to have some pride, if you will, as the character. But you got to be careful. Now, if your character is a proud person, you can make that character a proud person. Then it makes it a lot easier. Because now you're talking and you might actually be saying it to another character or whatever. So, but that is just something you got to watch out for. Be careful. It's not impossible to separate, the two. But you have to, when I talk about, for instance, what I'm going to do for you as your coach or as your teacher, I'm expressing to you my capabilities. I'm not personally not taking great pride in it, but I am proud of it, if you can see the difference there. And it's something that I want you to know that I can do. It's something I want you to understand that I can do. But at the same time, I don't want to be guilty of being a proudful person. And so every day you face that in every aspect of your Christian walk. You just have to carry it over, especially when you're doing first person. You got to carry it over to that. And so that's another difficulty that you have. These are not insurmountable difficulties, but they are difficulties. The biggest one is this one up here I was talking about. Keeping the author and the character separated, even though both of them are you. That, to me, is the major difficulty. So we have these two, the pride. You got to be the thoughts. I don't really see outside of the pride factor. I don't see any difficulty in them seeing your thoughts. The having too much pride in yourself could feed into this, and this is why I was emphasizing this. So, but outside of that, I don't see a real major difficulty. The biggest difficulty with thoughts is that, well, one, I'm gonna. This is not part of this particular episode, but I'm gonna put it down in here anyhow. I'm gonna take pride out just for the room. When doing thoughts, you want the reader to be able to know when you think. So, how do I do that? Well, there are different people have different ways. There's white space, nothing there. There's italics. Another one is I thought. No, there's more than that, but now I do not use this method here. I do not use this. Why? Because when printing it out in a book, it may only look to the character, or to the reader rather, like it was an error, a extra line feed, if you will. And they might miss that and continue to think that you're talking out loud. The other thing is italics. I use that. I use that all the time for thinking. I have very rarely, I will at times, just so that to remind the reader, maybe it's a long passage, and so you want the reader to know who is that's doing it. So it might be Randy's thought, not necessarily I. But it could be, we're talking first person, so it'd be I thought. I thought this, or I thought that. Another thing is when to not be, then you use quotes. You should always use quotes when you are doing, whether it's first person or third person, whatever. When you are having somebody talk, always use quotes. And there are two kinds of quotes. You have this, and then you have this. Now, if your software allows you to use this, that's the best way to go. You may not be able to, and so it's straight up and down. But you need to have quotes. So this is what we're looking at today, the viewpoint of a first person. It is a difficult way to go, but it can be, and often is, a very successful way to go. And if you want to do that, then I would be excited to be able to help you do that. Basic Authors Training is designed for you. And you can actually write one book in first person, another book in third person. You just can't switch back and forth within the same book. But that's the thing about this course. The course itself is flexible. It allows you to develop and learn different things. You can learn the different persons. And then choose, whenever you're writing a book, choose which one you want to use. And know that you're coming at it with your skills. And don't forget, aside from this video, I always provide you with extra tools. And so that is something you always want to make sure you download them and add them into your toolbox. So here we are. Advantages: the reader sees all. Look at the character sees. There's a sense of immediacy, and the reader sees the thoughts. The disadvantage is the difficulty. That covers almost everything that I've talked about as far as disadvantage. It's the difficulty. Doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you got to be more attentive. You got to watch it. You'll probably do a little bit more editing and things of this nature. But you can do it. If you want to, if that's what you want to do, you can do it. And so it is a way to go. I'll be looking at third person, I'll be looking at third person in the next video, and then we'll have another viewpoint in the third video or episode. So I'll be seeing you in the next episode.